How's it going, YouTube? Oh, shush. Oh, I was already in third. How about that? I forgot I set my auto trans already into third gear. Thought I was still in second for some reason, but thankfully I am in third, and it is time to boogie and get my beloved monster here into the shop for some 500,000 mile service. Not looking forward to that, Bill, but it is what it is. That is life. That's how you got to take care of business. To be able to do business, you got to pay the big bills, and that usually is maintenance bills. Anyway, what am I yanking at you about today? Well, the conundrum that I am considering or encountering when it comes to the forthcoming, planned at least, American Freedom Convoy protest 2022 that's going to drive on Washington, D.C., allegedly, or supposed to be either leaving March 1st for D.C. or is going to be arriving in D.C. on March 1st. I don't know what the actual plan is yet. The original Facebook group that was about this planned protest got canned by Facebook because it got too popular too fast. And Facebook was like, no, we're not having any part of this. We're not going to let you use our platform for this nonsense as they see it. So they shut it down. There's a new Facebook group called the People's Convoy 2022 that is essentially being run by the same people. And that is going to be apparently, at least for the moment, the source of information regarding this planned protest. Now, the difference between the U.S. and Canada is that Canada did, in some capacity, either through executive fiat or through actual legislative action, I'm not sure which, did put in place a vaccine mandate for cross-border truckers, and that has been the sore point for the Freedom Convoy that has been protesting in Ottawa peacefully for the last several days, or close to a week now, as well as the Couts, I believe that's how it's pronounced, Couts, Alberta border crossing between Alberta and Montana, where 30 trucks blockaded the Canadian side of the border crossing. More trucks, I guess, have joined them, as well as some farmers. And but last I heard this morning, the truckers did relent enough in their blockade to allow one lane each way to open up for traffic to proceed through. So it's not a complete blockade, but they are still there. They are still ensuring that the messages have gotten across, and that there is still the restriction of the trucks still being there. Now, the Freedom Convoy, or the People's Convoy 2022, planning to drive on Washington. As I see it, the first part of the conundrum is, what will the message be? Is it going to be an end to mandates across the board? Is it going to be standing up for just the troops and the military vaccine mandates? Is it going to be seeking to end all federal level mandates across the board? I'm not sure yet. I'm going to just go out on a limb and assume that yes, that's going to be the all-encompassing message. Stop with the mandates, stop with the requirements. COVID has reached an endemic status, so there really is no need for us to be doing this stuff anymore, because according to Johns Hopkins University, the lockdowns did not help stop the spread. There's been science that's come out and said the masks aren't doing anything. We know the vaccines do not prevent the spread. They only essentially prevent people from dying of COVID if they don't already have underlying health issues severe enough to actually limit the vaccine's effectiveness. So we got all that in play. And then where did I go with that thought? I forgot where I was going with that thought. Anyway, so the People's Convoy, I'm assuming, will be seeking to end the mandates and restrictions and just let us get back to normal, which I support. I do support that message. I believe it is time for us to let vaccines truly be a personal choice across the board, and then we just proceed from there. I believe it's time for us to end all the restrictions and just, put this whole thing to bed, because again, COVID has reached an endemic status, and as I talked about in my video last night, several European nations have already accepted this fact that COVID is endemic on a global scale, and that since because all these lockdowns and restrictions are not really helping to stop the problem, they just essentially said we're going to accept it and we just hope that everyone just proceeds intelligently. And but we're going to reopen our airways for travel. We're going to reduce our quarantine restrictions, all this good stuff. So great, good for Europe. So, but again, if that's the message that the People's Convoy is going to be solidifying around, great, I support it. But where does the conundrum come in for me, really? There's two factors as I see it. Number one, what role should I as a driver and an owner-operator take in participating? Should I seek to be part of the convoy driving to DC? And if I do that, do I have enough financial resources behind me to make sure that if, I decide to stay there for, X amount of time, I'm going to be able to pay my bills, take care of, my necessary expenses, fuel my truck, feed myself, all that stuff, make sure that, I'm not going to be a drag on someone else's resources in order for you to participate in this protest. That's one element of the conundrum. The second factor is that I am an owner-operator who is leased on with another carrier, and their name is on the side of my truck. It's not my name on the side of my truck, it's their name on the side of my truck. So I'm operating under their DOT number, their IFTA registration, their motor carrier number, their permits. Everything that I'm doing is through this company that I'm leased on with right now, and essentially I represent this company. Now, as an owner-operator, yes, I do have the right and the ability to, at will, cease working, shut my truck down, and just not pull revenue freight for this company or just in general on principle. That is my right as the owner-operator. I own the truck. I pay for the truck. I'm insuring the truck. I'm fueling the truck. I'm maintaining the truck, essentially, when all is said and done. So I have the right to determine when this truck does and does not go to work. But do my rights as an owner-operator then extend to speaking on behalf of the carrier I'm leased on with? My initial thought is no, it does not give me the right to participate in a very grand scale protest that could have negative repercussions for a lot of carriers, a lot of drivers on an individual as well as a company basis. So because I'm speaking for them when I'm driving down the road by my actions, how I behave in traffic, how I work with shippers and receivers, whenever I interface with DOT, all that stuff, I represent the company that is on the side of my truck. No one knows who I am, but they know who my company that I'm leased on with is. They see the DOT number, it's their number, not my number, it's theirs. So it's their message that I am spreading through my actions on the road and as I go about my business. Do I have the right to speak for them in this protest without their permission, or even with it, but with restrictions placed on me by that carrier? That's the question. Because any action I take as part of this protest, there is a significant risk that it could have negative repercussions on the carrier that I am leased on with. Number one, of course, they have the right to terminate my contract at any point, whether they like me or love me or hate me or feel I've not been living up to my end of the bargain, so to speak. That is their right. I have the same right. At any point, I can decide to terminate my contract with them, and we just part ways. They take their equipment, their permits, all that stuff back. They get their trailer back and all that. They debadge my truck, and then I go with another carrier or get my own authority, whatever the case may be. Or, if they feel that I have behaved inappropriately or whatever the case may be, they can then terminate my contract as well. So there is the ability for both parties, myself and the carrier I'm leased on with, to terminate the contract that I'm operating under. It's an at-will contract. They also, because if I would seek to speak for them in a political fashion without their permission, there is a legitimate concern that I have for them that there could be a negative look at them by brokers, by customers, by governments perhaps. They may seek to then curtail that company's ability to do business. That is a legitimate risk. Is it likely to happen? No. But is it a risk I'm willing to take on behalf of somebody else? No, I am not, because if I'm going to speak politically, if I'm going to participate in a political action, I want to represent myself only and not put anyone around me at risk of blowback, because it's my words or my actions that are speaking on this forum, on this topic. Anyone I'm associated with should not suffer by proxy. there should be no consequences by proxy for my carrier through my political statements or lack thereof, my political action or lack thereof. That should not happen. So it is my responsibility to protect their position, especially if they come out and say, we understand what's going on, we're keeping ourselves aware of what's happening, but we want all of our drivers and our owner-operators not to participate because we do not feel it is right for the company or safe or whatever else. I'm under their authority, their operating authority. It is now incumbent upon me to comply with their directive in how I operate because they have determined that is the direction they want to go in. I do not therefore have the right to represent them in a forum they have chosen not to be represented in the first place. So that's my serious conundrum as it comes down to actually being part of the protest with my truck. Now, if I chose to participate in a protest by driving to a protest site in my personal vehicle, now I am representing myself directly. I'm not representing the company I drive for in a negative fashion. It's only myself. I'm not going to be wearing their branding or their logo or whatever else. I'm trying to speak for them in a fashion that they may not like or prefer. So it would be that would be proper in my opinion and how I conduct myself in any participation of a protest. So that's how I feel about that. But at the same token, coming back around to the original point, do I support the lifting of mandates and restrictions? Absolutely. Do I believe the vaccine should be a choice? Absolutely. Do I believe that the government at the local, state, and federal level is exceeding its authority by attempting to force people to vaccinate against their will? Absolutely, I do. I believe it is time for the people of this country, of the United States, to be able to have the choice of determining for themselves whether or not the vaccine is in their best interest because they trust the science behind it, they trust what it's going to do for them, they trust the protection that the vaccines can offer, or they feel that no, the vaccine is not in their best interest because they don't want to participate in what they feel is a mass indoctrination of society through misinformation. They don't want to participate in a vaccine because it's not fully been tested or trialed. There's no full clinical workup on the vaccine or the vaccines and the process by which they were developed. Or they feel that it is their own personal level of civic protest through non-violence, through non-compliance, so to speak, not to take a vaccine. Okay, that needs to remain a person's choice. As you know, if you've watched enough of my videos, I chose to vaccinate, I chose to boost for a variety of reasons. Number one, I wanted to be able to move unrestricted around the country, especially in areas that may still have significant restrictions on who can and cannot do what. I also want to be able to get on an aircraft and go on vacation at some point, as I've said before, and I've got a concert coming up in Chicago end of the month that is requiring proof of vaccination as well as a mask, at least as of this week. So because I want to be able to do these things, I believed it was in my best interest to vaccinate. So I did, and I boosted because I felt, again, it was in my best interests in order to be able to do what I want to do. If given the choice, if there were no restrictions or there were no requirements in any capacity to vaccinate, would I have vaccinated? Absolutely not. Almost a guarantee I would not have vaccinated. Because again, I've been exposed to COVID at least once, pre and post vaccination, at least once each time, and I have yet to come down with COVID that I'm been aware of. So I have confidence in my autoimmune system to be able to fend off the COVID-19 variants, whether it's Alpha all the way up through Omicron. I feel very confident in my personal health. Doesn't mean I'm going to be foolish, try to seek out exposure to COVID deliberately in order to see if I'm actually right or not. Absolutely not. I'm not going to do that because, even a healthy person can die from the flu. So we've got to be intelligent about how we proceed in this manner. But it should be choice. It should be up to the individual how they feel they proceed when it comes to the vaccines and, self-isolating, self-quarantining, whatever. This needs to be personal choice. And because of where we're at on a global scale, it is time that the governments at the local, state, and federal level recognize that, as Denver, Colorado has, as Virginia is seeking to do, and as the people in, most of the states, as well as now in the provinces of Canada, they have that position. It's time to just be done with this stuff. Europe's opening back up in little drips and drabs here and there. So we make of that what we will. But when it comes to how I intend to participate in a protest, if the protest goes off as planned, because I will not be seeking to speak for my carrier on their behalf by participating with my truck, what I will most likely do is just shut down for several days during that protest period in solidarity, where I will not be moving revenue freight. That by itself, in my opinion, is a perfectly valid form of participation in the protest, because if you are someone who's leased on, it does not put your carrier at risk of consequences if you're just not working. Because if you're an owner-operator, you have the right to say, I'm not going to work from this date to this date, and that's just how it's going to be. And your carrier can say, no, you have to work, or you can say, well, I'm going somewhere else, and they now have to lose your services. Or they can accept that fact and just, as long as you're doing right by them, making sure that they have their trailers, their equipment, all that stuff is where it needs to be for them to continue to operate if they choose to do so. If they're not joining a protest, then, everything is fine. So that's where that is. So not working is a form of protest in and of itself, and in my opinion, it is an extremely valid form of protest if participating directly is putting your carrier at risk or your equipment at risk. So there we are on that. So anyway, folks, thank you so much for watching. I hope what I've said has made sense. I hope that I was making a clear and rational point. But I also do hope that the government of Canada, at the provincial, the local, and the national level, as well as the governments of the United States at the local, state, and federal levels, all get their collective craniums out of their sphincters and just, let all this stuff be done with, because we're all sick of it, we're all tired of it, and we all want to get back to our pre-pandemic lives as best as we possibly can, even with the changes that are probably going to be staking around when the all clear, so to speak, is finally issued. So yeah, good times, fun times. I hope you stay safe. Have a good weekend, everyone. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you down the road.